Hello to everyone watching yet another mega preview of the T20 World Cup 2024 on cricket.com with me, Avnish Hegde, who's sitting somewhere on the coast of Thailand, and of course joined in by the similar faces who were part of yesterday's preview, of course, of Group D. We're going backward, like I said yesterday, and we're going to do so today as well with Group C, which includes the hosts, West Indies for starters, and then there's, of course, Uganda, there's PNG, and not to forget New Zealand, and of course, Afghanistan too. But we'll go with the minnows first. But introductions, as always, on the cricket.com live shows. And Jeet, I'll start with you. How are we? And some good traction in the first video that we saw. Lots of people from Nepal joining us, about 5K for that preview. So hoping for the same this time around, Jeet.
Lots of comments indeed. That is what I was checking today, and I was like, wow, we've got 30 plus comments on this. So it's good that people are actually engaging. And having said that, credit to the cricket.com team as well, to be actually taking the initiative to discuss all these teams as well, the associate nations that aren't often discussed about in depth. So it's really great to be on this platform and having a chat about these teams with Pramod and all of you guys. So fantastic to see these guys.
Yeah, I'm super keen to understand more about Uganda and Papua New Guinea, both as cricketing sides. We did see, of course, PNG in a 2021 World Cup it was, and I think everyone was lauding their World Cup jersey, but this time around, Uganda also making it, and both them feature in this group. Pramod, how are we, and what are you looking forward to in this group, Group C?
Yeah, hi, Avnish. Hope you had a good day back in Thailand today. I can see the smile. Of course, I was just waiting for that. Yeah. Interesting group. You obviously have your favorites in West Indies and of course New Zealand to sort of go through probably. But yeah, so it's worth mentioning worth talking about Uganda as well. They've had a very interesting sort of journey. And especially, I think since 2023, they've played probably the most T20 as any team has played, and there are some ridiculous numbers when it comes to their batting numbers or their bowling numbers. Let me throw a couple at you right now. Alpesh Ramjani, 60. He's picked up 65 wickets in T20I since 2023. Of course, most by any, and he's done that at an average of 8.4. Economy rate of 4.58, strike rate of 11. If that is impressive, wait till you hear about Henry Siniondo, who has 53 wickets at an average of 12.49, economy of 4.5, and strike rate of 13.7. I mean, these are just ridiculous numbers. So, you can always argue that they're not playing against the stronger side and things like that, but, you can only play teams which are thrown at you, and they've done very well. They won 32 of their 32 or 31 of their last 35 games since 2023, which includes, of course, beating Zimbabwe in the qualifiers to make it here. A very, very interesting and unique side we have here.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just startled by those numbers, insane numbers individually and, of course, as a team. So props to you, and of course, you started off by, of course, asking me how Thailand is going. It's only going to get better, Akshay, because there are going to be plenty of twists and turns this World Cup. But tomorrow, for me, is going to be Adamanda Phuket, the water park, the Great Water Kingdom. Can you see that there? I'm going to go check out all those fantasy rides. Just like how the World Cup will have plenty of ebbs and flows, I'm guessing. Group C, what tickles you with this? I know West Indies is in it. Do you straight away put them as one of your favorites because they won it twice, and of course they're hosting the competition?
I'm just trying to think in terms of how West Indies have so far performed in World Cups, in the recent World Cups. We saw what happened to them, the debacle that it was in Australia, them losing to Scotland, a game that I just enjoyed watching, and a result I did not see coming, because when you look at this West Indies side, at least the West Indies side in the last 2-3 years, they've had solid match winners, in their setup. Sure, they might not have played much together, and that could probably, sort of impact the performances. But to see them sort of unravel so easily in that last World Cup was an eye-opener to them. Fingers crossed, things are much better now. There's Robin Powell, who's sort of making his debut at the highest level at the World Cup, that is as their skipper. It'll be very interesting to see there. But again, batting seems very well oiled, very sorted, but it's their bowling that's sort of giving me the jitters. Sort of similar to how South Africa are shaping up. Even though they've got decent teams when it comes to their bowling attack as well. All in all, it's going to be very tricky. So yeah, but lots to look forward to for sure.
Indeed, we'll of course have a look at New Zealand as well later on in the show, and Afghanistan, not to forget. But let's start off, of course, with Uganda. And as always, we'll of course show you the fixtures that every group will have, and this is how it looks with regards to the fixtures in Group C. And it comes as fast as Sunday, boys, with West Indies hosting PNG at Guyana. You can take a look at the venues on the right-hand side as well. All of these games in Group C will be played in the West Indies and not the USA. So that's something to take note of as well. So lots of games coming thick and fast as usual in a World Cup. But we'll start off with Uganda, like I said. And of course, don't worry if you guys don't know anything about them. I know they've not played a World Cup game and they have nothing to show in terms of a fact file. But like Pramod dished out some stats there, these guys will add to it because Simon Sazaz, I mean, he's been their top scorer essentially in the T20 International Scheme of Things, and most wickets is Henry Sissiondo, like Pramod echoed over there. Pramod, I'll get straight into you with this because I know Akshay has some riveting thoughts about Uganda and PNG in equal measure. But Pramod, I'll give you first go. Talk to me about the men in yellow this time around.
Yeah, as far as Uganda are concerned, there are, I feel, five players that you need to keep an eye on. I think these five, not largely, all of them mostly Asian players. We talked about Alpesh Ramjani earlier. He was, of course, a nominee for the T20I Player of the Year along with Surya Kumar Yadav last year. Then you have Dinesh Nakrani, who's a very good left-arm fast bowler and a very handy batter. Then you have Bilal Hassan, who's a fantastic medium pace bowler. Then you have Ronak Patel as well, who's an opener and a handy batter. And of course, not to forget Riyazat Ali Shah. I'd like to say that he's the backbone of their batting lineup. Bats 4, bats 5, and gets those useful runs.
Who's that?
So, sorry.
Who do you say is
Riyazat Ali Shah.
Okay, fine.
So
just to give more clarity to the viewers watching this, I mean, there's so many names here. How many are born in Uganda and how many are, of course, expats? Because I was reading an interesting article about how it is, of course, a culture which is from outside, but the roots are very much from within. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true. I think very few associate teams can brag about that. I think one team that comes to my mind when I say the entire team consists of local players is probably Nepal, and then PNG, and I think PNG, and I think Uganda, of course, come quite close. I think other than these five Asian players that I mentioned, who are India and Pakistan, basically, I think all of them, are locals, which sort of I think goes on to show that they do have a good cricket background in their country, which has sort of gone through different stages and accumulated eventually in them making the T20 World Cup. There's one more interesting person called Frank Nsubuga, who is 43 years old, playing his first World Cup. And I think his first recorded official game, as far as when I checked, was back in 1997. 90s. Yeah. So I don't know how many of you were born then. I'm not sure.
I wasn't.
Yeah, of course. And so yeah, there's some really interesting characters, as I said earlier, in this Ugandan team. And getting here is a massive accomplishment. But the main concern is, will this be sort of the end of the road for them, or whether they will progress through to maybe more World Cups and things like that. So that remains my concern with them. It's a fantastic achievement, but how long is it sustainable for them? But the good news is, of course, they have so many locals coming through showing interest in the game, wanting to play at the highest level. So there is of course a glimmer of hope for them, probably beyond this T20 World Cup.
Absolutely. And Pramod, both of us, you and me, love our football. And this is the first time a senior Uganda side have played a World Cup, a feat that has not been achieved by the national football team, which is something to take note of. So up and onwards to, of course, the do they have a name? The Uganda boys.
They call it cricket cranes.
The cranes. Cranes.
The cranes. Okay, that's
Which was also part of their jersey before ICC decided to sort of put paid to those plans. But
yeah, perfect. So cranes indeed. And listen, lots of comments will come through right now. But if you guys are watching it later, give this video a quick like. Let me get my words right before we move on to team 2 that we want to talk about today in the Group C preview. So Uganda, let's see how they go, because like they said, they beat Zimbabwe and Zimbabwe's beaten Pakistan. So if you guys do the math could be mathing in the T20 World Cup. So again, love to see new teams enter the cricket fraternity. Moving on to a team which has, of course, shown us a glimpse, like I said, 2021 World Cup. And I'm talking about Papua New Guinea. And there's, of course, some breaking news with regards to them and on that front. And God bless them all, because I think there was some sort of earthquake that we heard earlier today. Now, the fact file, cricketing-wise, they played 3 games, like I said, 3 years ago in that tournament in Dubai, and they didn't win any of them. But they had plenty of things to kind of write home about with regards to how generally they've developed as a cricketing nation. I know these are not World Cup numbers. These are numbers in the T20 internationals. Tony Ura and Norman Manua are both, of course, stalwarts in the PNG cricketing circles. Pramod, again, I'll give you first up on them, because you've been involved writing so many pieces about PNG over the years. The good old lad and name of Charles Amini rings a bell every time we talk about PNG, even in office. What is different this time around compared to 2021? Do they still have a cool jersey? Do they still have Charles Amini? And more importantly, can they punch above their weight in this group, which looks a little tricky?
Yes to all of that. I think the only thing that they've added on is from the 2021 campaign, or retained rather, is I think they've more or less retained their core that represented them back then. You have, as you mentioned, you have Charles Amini, you have Asad Wala, their captain, you have Norman Vanua, of course, over there. So plenty of players with a little more experience now over the last 3 years. And I think they are. The way they, in fact, in 2021 when they qualified, that was I wouldn't say a bit of a surprise, but the way they qualified was really incredible. When they were on the mat against Kenya, when they were reduced to 19 for 6 or something like that, chasing 120 odd, they somehow managed to get over the line and win that. And I think that's what PNG is all about. They may not be the most high profile or talented sort of cricketers, but they really sort of grind and they push. So I think that's what we can expect in this group from them as well. And I had the chance to speak to their head coach recently. I think that Taibu took over, former Zimbabwe captain, of course. He took over last August, if I'm not wrong. And it was a good chat with him. He told me about the things that they are working on, and some of the key players that he thought they especially want to work on their power hitting, and with the bowling they want to sort of change it up a bit, add variations to their skill set. So it was a very interesting conversation. And of course, PNG are going into this World Cup at the back of some decent form. They won the Tri Series in Hong Kong, which featured Nepal as well. They beat Nepal in that final, which is not. Nepal have proved to be tricky customers in the past. So they are in good form. They're in good form going into this, and the players too have in the recently they've done pretty well. If you look at CJ Amini, or if you look at Tony Ura, Asad Wala, Norman Manua, and so many others. I think their form is going to be crucial, and it's good to know that they're going into this World Cup with some runs under their belt, some wickets under their belt, and they should be able to put a fight in this group for sure.
Yeah, and it makes you think even more about their form with regards to them going unbeaten. Was it in that East Pacific Asia qualifier to get to this?
Yeah, it was unbeaten, but it consisted only of 4 teams. So I think they just played each other twice, something like that. And PNG, of course, won, I think, 6 out of 6. And so here they are.
See, I mean, you can only beat in what is front for you. So props to PNG and them getting here. Let me come to you about it, because we just showed those names in terms of the PNG squad, Jeet. What do you like here? Because Asadwala is a name, of course, well documented, at least in the PNG circles. That if cricket geeks would know, they know. Charles Amini, like Pramod spoke about. But any other names catch your eye or ones to watch from a PNG lens this World Cup?
Oh, there are quite a few. So PNG had, I remember Nosena Pokan as a left-arm pacer for a long time. He played recently as well, but come the World Cup, they've stuck with Kabua Moria and Semo Kamiya as the two left-arm pacers, and these two are really, really good. They do the job in the power play with the new ball, and something like Kabua Moria is exceptional and my player to watch out for because this guy's got really, really good variations at the death as well. So he's probably somebody to look forward to alongside Semo Kamiya. But besides that, finally, again, PNG have got a left arm spinner in the side. After Jason Killa, they've finally got John Carrico coming into the side. So that's a new variation that they've added, a new variety that they've added. So that's another guy that I'm looking forward to. He's not so experienced, but he gets the job done. Whatever little career he has had so far, he's been outstanding with that. Besides that, it's the usual suspects. We've got Norman Vanua, who's fantastic down the order with the bat. I've had a bit of an issue because I would have always preferred Vanua batting higher up the order given the six hitting ability. So I don't want it to be situation oriented. I just want him to bat higher up the order. I know it's not sadly going to happen, but a fantastic, fantastic six hitter is Norman Vanua, and he's equally good with the ball. So it's going to be Norman Vanua and Chad Soper getting a job done as the two right arm pacers who should be starting in the 11, alongside Semo Kabia and Kabua Moria as the two left arm pacers, and these guys are absolutely outstanding. Coming to that same fantastic name of Tony Ura. What an outstanding, outstanding batter he's been for years and years, getting the job done single-handedly. So he's probably going to open alongside Lega Siaka. So it's that another opening pair that's probably there to look forward to with Asad Wala, who's extremely experienced and fantastic as a left-hand batter and right-arm off spinner coming in at number 3. So watch out for these guys. Asad Wala, we've got Tony Ura, we've got Norman Vanua, Chad Soper, and newbies in John Carrico, Semo Kamiya, and Cabo Moria.
Yeah, I mean, people might be watching this and be like, who are these guys and what are they going to do this World Cup? But look, we can only give you as much as we know, and Jeet and, of course, Pramod have studied these boys pretty well. Akshay, I mean, do you know anything about these teams?
No,
I mean,
it's not that I don't know anything, again, in my defense, but I'd much rather sort of laid open to Pramod and Jeet, who are a lot more...
One second, who's the guy featuring in this graphic right now?
Asad Wala, the skipper.
Okay, so
and Norman Vanua is definitely a name that I'm also personally looking forward to. If Jeet hadn't mentioned, of course, I would have. That's the sitting abilities that Jeet spoke about. One of the first glimpses I caught of him, of course, was in the 21 World Cup. The way he handled Brad Beal, again, this is this one encounter I'm talking about because that was a game that I particularly followed for Scotland. And the way he handled it clearly showed ki boss, they're not bad at all. And of what little I've been able to track of PNG cricket, unlike many other associate nations, you don't see a lot of expats moving to PNG because of their geography. Like if you look at Africa, you see a lot of, for example, again, at the risk of stereotyping, you see a lot of Gujus moving, to Africa. You see Kenya filled with a lot of Gujaratis. You see Uganda, of course, likewise being filled with a lot of people from that part of India because it's always been a very popular trade route. Not the case with PNG. However, they have been helped by the fact that they are a lot more closer to Australia. In fact, they've sent a lot of development teams to Australia. Even I'm forgetting which one is it. Was it Brisbane Heat or Queensland? Sorry. So Queensland, in fact, also conducted a camp for PNG players. I remember Tony Ura talking about it a year ago. So that way, it is good that they've been a part of BBL sides as well. So BBL, it's not exactly quota, but they had these players who trained with them, not a part of the squad, but who were brought in to train with them. I know Sydney Sixers had a couple of players back in the day. So these are the tiny little things that, we tend to miss. So it's good to see that's happening. And Norman Vanua, 100% going to be my pick in terms of who I'm looking forward to. A lot of names that were mentioned by Pramod and Jeet, of course. A couple of them I haven't even heard of. Kariko, if I'm not wrong, the slow left armer that Jeet mentioned. Yet to, of course, catch a glimpse of him. Moria, last year, in the 21 World Cup itself, we'd seen he got in a 3-4 or a 4-4, if I'm not wrong. It was against Scotland once again. They came very close to beating Scotland. They lost by 10 runs, if I'm not wrong, 10 or 12 runs or there and thereabouts. Not a bad margin at all to lose against a side that has proven itself at the T20 World Cup stage. So fingers crossed onwards and upwards for them as well.
And of course, I want to add on to that Australian connection. I think a few years ago they were also coached by Jason Gillespie for a brief period, if I'm not wrong.
True.
And of course, there is another influential Australian, of course, called Joe Dawes, who was their head coach when they initially qualified. From what I've been given to understand is Joe Dawes stayed in the country and he was available throughout whenever the players sort of needed them for any minor things or to practice, to get some advice or things like that. Since then, there was another person called Carl Sandry who took over. Unfortunately, this was during COVID, and hence he could not move to the country. I think Avnish and I spoke to Carl Sandry, I think, on this platform back then. And of course, now they have Taibu, who also is now staying in the country, which is, of course, highly beneficial, as I mentioned before. So I think could be one of the reasons, behind them doing so well. They're getting along so well, gelling well, and that sort of shows in the results.
Indeed, it does. Sorry, I was just peering out because there seems to be a bloody storm brewing right now, and it's windy AF. Quickly, let me take some comments right now because the boys have picked the bones about Uganda and, of course, PNG so far. If you guys are just joining us, a warm welcome. Kenneth Pereira saying, bro, I can't wait to see the matches in New York. Nassau Stadium boundaries are shorter than Bengaluru. And Priyanshu Dhawan adding, Jeet's analysis is making me think that PNG is going to make the semis. And he goes on. Yeah. He's doing a good job indeed. Where do you guys see matches associated and track their players? Fan codes, YouTube clips. These boys study them inside out. And Greg, the old Greg in the chat saying, oh, so it's most likely to be New Zealand, West Indies, Afghanistan, and the bowlers. We're not sure. Batsmen, we're yet to depict all three of those groups for you right now. And just to qualify from each group to the Super 8s. And then it's going to be semi-finals and, of course, finals. And some love from Mr. Singhal on this Thursday evening saying, hi guys, nice to see you guys previewing every team unlike others. Really looking forward to the World Cup coverage. Good luck. Hopefully 100K soon. Fingers crossed, man. Fingers crossed. And good to see people joining in from Reddit as well. Right. Akshay, sorry, you wanted to say something?
No, I wasn't. I was just picking a bit of granola left.
Okay, wild. Okay, speaking of wild, hopefully the West Indies will have it in them to conjure up some magic this World Cup, because it's always nice that a host does well. But we're not going to talk about them just as yet. We're saving the host for the last. We're going to go to Afghanistan next and get cracking with them. And Jeet, I'll give you first pick, but before which the fact file has to come up. And Afghanistan have played 22 games. Funnily enough, the last time the Caribbean hosted the T20 World Cup is when Afghanistan made their debut, 2010. I think India was the opposition, and we all remember, I think, Harsha Bhogle on comms that day, boys. Anyway, 22
May
played.
2010. I remember the exact date because I made my debut at the Sharjah Cricket Stadium. There you go. Had to flex. Now let's move on.
Super. So 1 second. So Afghanistan have been about for a while. Their best finish, 2016. As much as that surprises you, they didn't get going in the last couple of World Cups, and they'll want something to change this time around. That's why you see that World Cup win percentage just a meager 31.81%. And then their most runs, a man who doesn't play for them anymore, but had lots of entertainment while doing that bit for his country and scoring 402 runs in the process. And then, of course, Rashid Khan, most wickets in their T20 international history. Afghanistan, Jeet, let me start with you. Can they break that little West Indies, New Zealand that everyone keeps talking about to potentially break out of Group C and have their name, like they did in the ODI World Cup, and really punch above their weight?
I feel Afghanistan have very strong chances this time around. So how I see Group C is New Zealand as strong contenders to make it through, and it's going to be a clash between the West Indies and Afghanistan. So one of the key things here, like you mentioned earlier, is that this is a group that will purely and solely be played only in the West Indies. So they've got venues at Guyana, they've got St. Lucia, and they've got Trinidad and Tobago. All these tracks should suit the Afghan spinners. Realistically, it should suit them. So that's going to be a huge factor heading into this group and the games against the West Indies and the other ones as well. So that's one of the key factors here. As I saw, their best finish was Super 10, so they haven't really performed so well historically in the T20 World Cups. But like I mentioned, this is probably the best chance, and I do see them actually just about edging out, I would say, the West Indies. I know it's a bold call, but there is a strong chance, what I believe, purely because of the kind of spinners they've got this time around. So what's really good is that this time they have identified the issues they've had previously. So they had quite a few players who were the standby players previously, be it Rehmat Shah, who was not really ideal for the T20 format. They had Sharafuddin Ashraf as well in the standbys last time around, and they've let go of Hazratullah Zaza as well. There is no Mohammad Salim as well, who I don't know. It was a very, very surprising pick last time around, and he never played any game either. So anyway, all these guys are out. They have rectified. They have realized these kind of issues. There is no Kes Ahmed either. They've got a left-arm spinner in the main squad, not even in the reserves, in Nange Alia Karote. So that's another very, very interesting name to look forward to, and another addition to the spin department. So the spinners have got Rashid Khan, Noor Ahmed, Karote, Mohammad Nabi, and Mujibur Rahman. So that's an outstanding spin attack that they've got. Alongside, they've got really, really
Quintet.
decent. Sorry?
Quintet.
Quintet, yeah. Alongside that, they've got a really, really good pace attack as well in Fazul Farooqi. They've got Fareed Ahmed and the all-rounders stepping in Gulbuddin Naib. They've got Azmatullah Omarzai and they've got Kareem Channat as well, alongside, of course, Naveenul Haq as their lead pacer. So I feel the bowling is really, really well sorted, be it the spin attack or the pace attack. And just like Sri Lanka, a lot is going to revolve around their bowling. If they can restrict the opposition to around 140, 150, they will be able to chase it down. So I understand they're stuck with someone like Ibrahim Zadran, who's again that kind of player who prefers the anchor role. So the onus is going to be riding upon Rahmanullah Gurbaz to provide those quick starts, whilst Ibrahim Zadran plays the anchor role. But they've got a really, really good firepower to follow. I'm a huge fan of Najibullah Zadran and his six hitting ability. So all these big six hitters like Chris Gale, David Miller, they always talk about balance at the crease when they're trying to hit those big shots. Watch Najib Sadran, he nails it, absolutely nails it. So they've got that good firepower, and this time they've got a really, really good chance of making it through.
Yeah, I saw a couple of videos of that bloke on Twitter. And remember, Afghanistan have something that even India don't, which is an IPL winner in their team, and that's Gurbaz. So if he comes off, that'll be absolutely stunning to see. And Afghanistan is a name going to be watched upon. I'll get Akshay and Pramod's thoughts on them just a bit. But Rehmat Jamal going on to add to what Jeet was saying about Nangyal Karoti being really, guys, watch out for him because he could be the emerging player and everyone should keep an eye out for him. Kenneth Pereira, chirpy, good to see that. I want to see more teams playing the T20 World Cup in 2026, but the problem is a lot of teams are not even close to the top 10s, so it's useless. Doesn't matter, grow the game. That's what is so enterprising about the Football World Cup, and hence the Cricket World Cup is seeing 20 tournaments this time around, 20 teams this time around, in the tournament. Rashid Khan looked off color in the IPL, needs to find rhythm after injury. Look, all these players, some of them, they just become different players when they play for their country. You can see it with Mohammad Siraj and Rohit Sharma, for example, and how they are for their IPL teams and their franchises. Right, enough of my fluff. What about Afghanistan? And again, similar question to what I was asking you yesterday, guys, about Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. Can they actually now make it count? Because Afghanistan have the weapons. They have the tools to do the job, Akshay. But can they? Because I know Jonathan Trott has been brilliant for them. Apart from that calculator situation, which went bizarre, essentially, can they actually get out of the group, let alone Super 8 chat in semi-finals and all of that?
Slightly unpopular opinion, but I genuinely think Afghanistan and West Indies both would probably start favourites against New Zealand in those encounters. And it's essentially these three fixtures that are going to decide who's going to qualify, because you would expect all three of them to, sort of deal with PNG and Uganda without a lot of, sort of problems. So it's these three fixtures. And if I just look at them in isolation, I genuinely think Afghanistan have it in them to beat New Zealand in the West Indies. Importantly, like Jeet mentioned, like Avnish himself spoke about, the conditions on offer. The group is entirely going to play in the West Indies, which means the conditions, I won't say are going to be low and slow, something like that. I know we've seen that in the CPL, but you would expect ICC to have taken care of it. You will see sportive or sporting pitches. Even then, I would back Afghanistan. Their bowling genuinely looks very good. Sure, Rashid Khan hasn't looked at his lethal best post-injury. Even then, in the IPL, he went at 8.4 runs per over and an average of 36, which, to be honest, put in context with how the tournament fared for bowlers in general, I don't think was that bad a tournament or as bad as we thought it was. It's just that we've sort of come to expect some extremely sort of, one-sided or single-minded performances from Rashid Khan, and that wasn't to be the case. But even then, I would expect him to be just as dependable for Afghanistan. And apart from that, they've got Noor Ahmed, Mujibur Rahman, Fazal Farooqi is a bowler I personally like watching. And then, of course, there's Nikhil Bhai's favourite, Azmatullah Omarzai. All in all, that's more than decent options to have there. So in terms of their bowling, that they've gotten it sorted. And I believe they have the batting to deal with pass scores. So, for example, if they are bowling first, their bowling has it in them to ensure that the opposition does not get to even a pass score. They can restrict them to par -10. And once that happens, I don't think New Zealand have the kind of I'm specifically looking at the New Zealand matchup. I don't think New Zealand's bowling is going to trouble Afghan batters as much as Afghan bowlers can to the new Kiwi batters in the West Indies. That's how I'm looking at it. So, to be honest, I would actually back them ahead of New Zealand even. But all in all, this is a decent side. Farid Malik, of course, we saw him in Bangalore, what he did. He had that fofa. And it was great to see a couple of these new names coming in. Karuti, someone I haven't looked at a lot, but genuinely excited to sort of, see how he progresses and if he gets some game time in the World Cup. But yeah, all in all, a solid lineup for them. And hopefully they are able to put their best foot forward.
Yeah, you mentioned that game in Bangalore, India, Afghanistan, that series. I know India annihilated them, and it was Shivam Dubey who starred in that series, but they gave India a run for their money in the third one for that super over. So let's see if they have it in them to topple a few sides in this group. Brian Lara disagrees with Jeet, saying Priyanshu Dhawan, he's West Indies and Afghanistan in his top four, let alone Group C. I don't know what Lara has been doing, but a good man, met him at the airport. I think
But great
the
minds
IPL.
think alike. I agree with at least them qualifying to Super 8.
Okay. Introspect giving his thoughts, saying Guyana will suit Afghanistan as the 150 kind of venue. And Priyanshu saying the same thing. Amit Gurai, good to see you. Welcome to the chat. You're going to say Afghanistan's batting looks weak. And I think that's something similar that Navdeep Chaudhary is echoing as well, Pramod. Do you think that's the concern for Jonathan Trott and company heading into this World Cup, that it's their batting which needs to show up more than the bowlers who supposedly have got it under control?
It's a slight concern, but T20 is Afghanistan's preferred tournament. We saw how well they did in the 50-over World Cup. Jonathan Trott often talked about staying in the game for as long as possible, and they did that quite well, nearly making it to the semis as well in the 50-over World Cup. But yeah, I think Jeet covered most of the batting part of Afghanistan's batting. There, of course, Ibrahim. There are some very good names up there. With including Omarzai. You have Zadrans, of course, Naib, and so many other players. The main thing for me, I think, is going to be will they be able to sort of will the batsmen sort of be able to take over from the bowlers? We've seen the bowlers who've hogged the limelight for God knows for a really long time. And this is a good chance really for their batsmen also to potentially overshadow their bowlers. There's been so much the likes of Rashid, the likes of Noor, and the other spinners. They've won you a lot of games in the past. Maybe this is a good chance for their batters also to now saying we can also win you games and do that in this tournament.
Okay, interesting. You said 6 times in that last 6 seconds over there. I was just chuckling away. Sorry. But let's move on and, of course, talk about New Zealand with greater depth, because 3 down and 2 to go in this Group C preview. If you guys are enjoying it, please like and, of course, tell a friend. I know some of you guys treat YouTube as Spotify these days in terms of just listening to us rather than just watching, but we appreciate that either way. But a like would be even better. Time to talk about Kane Mama and his side, to all you SRH fans there, who, of course, used to like him. But his team has, of course, been participating in the World Cup ever since it was, of course, conjured up. So playing as many as 42 games. The closest they've come to silverware runners-up 2021 as they went down to the Trans-Tasmanian rivals Australia in that one. And the World Cup win percentage is not too bad, 57.14. And, of course, similar names great names in the game of cricket who, of course, boast in this fact file for them. Who wants to go with New Zealand? Should we do
I'll
eeny,
go.
meeny, miny, mo? Or Jeet
It's
wants to
okay, I
go?
can
Yeah,
go.
let's do that. Okay, super. So, what can you tell us? Because again, they could be one of those teams who everyone's having in a conversation saying, "Yeah, New Zealand in the top four," but do they even stand a chance this time? Or you just like, no chance?
Man, that's a big problem, and I've got a bone to pick with all these people. It happens before every World Cup edition, whether it's the 50 over World Cup or the T20 World Cup. When you ask any individual, whether on the social media or off the social media, about who is going to be your semi-finalists, top four, and the usual names come up. It's either India, Australia, England, South Africa, or Pakistan. When it comes to T20 World Cup, maybe they'll add the West Indies as well, but very few actually take New Zealand as the contenders. Somebody who I always back to make it to the top four, and they do. Whether it's the 50 over World Cup or the 20 over World Cup, I know when you look at the squad, you kind of don't see those big names or that firepower, but they get the job done. So they are always the underdogs, and I don't know why. Because every time people are proven wrong, they always do make it to the semis at least, right? So they had a very bad start to the T20 World Cup. So that reflects on the win percentage, which is not so good enough. But last three editions, they have made it to the semi-finals twice, and they were the runners-up in the 2021 edition as well. So this time around as well, I won't be surprised if they make it to the top four. I do have them at least making it through to the Super Eights ahead of the West Indies. I know it's opposite of what Akshay said, but I'd rather back New Zealand and Afghanistan to make it through ahead of the West Indies. I know it's a bold call, but that's how I see it. New Zealand are terrific when it comes to their planning. The in-game tactics are on point. I know other teams plan as well, but how often New Zealand get it right is absolutely incredible. Something
Yeah.
that I've observed with a very keen eye. The bowling plans are so good. So Shane Jorgensen previously had done a phenomenal job. This time around, they've got Jacob Oram on board, and I believe a similar standard to be maintained as far as the tactics are concerned. So they'll get the job done, whether it's the batters, whether it's the bowlers. They've got it all sorted this time around as well. So what stands out with this team is that they have a flurry of left-handers in their side. They have got as many as six left-handers in their squad, with five of them who can contribute with the ball as well. Of course, not everybody's going to start, but it's good to have somebody like Devin Conway back into the mix. There is Michael Bracewell who's back as well. And besides that, we've got that spin duo of Ish Sodhi and Mitch Santner. So they've got really well covered. We've got that bold Saudi pair for yet another World Cup edition. Potentially, their last pairing this time around, I don't know. But even as a support cast, they've got good options in Matt Henry and the express pace option Lockie Ferguson. Personally, I would have preferred Adam Mill, but that guy is battling injuries, so that was a bit of concern. So Lockie Ferguson gets a nod, and that's fine. But these guys, I believe they've got really well covered. I know they don't have big names, they don't have all these aggressive options. They've got a few Finn Allens there. They've finally got Glenn Phillips, who should be starting this time around, unlike the issue that he had back in SRH. So he should be a certain starter as well. So they've got batting depth that's well covered. They've got a lot of left-handers on the side. They've got anchors. They've got some outstanding aggressive batting options in Finn Allen and Glenn Phillips down the order. Jimmy Neesham as well to get the finishing job done. They've got great spinners as well in Mitch Sanders, Soti, and fantastic fast bowlers. So I feel all the departments are really well covered to get the job done this time.
That's insane. I asked Jeet a simple question, and he's just given us a mouthful and more about how
Oh
New
man,
Zealand could possibly.
New Zealand.
Yeah,
I just
you know
don't like
what? I
how
mean,
they are always underrated every edition because nobody counts them in to make it to the top four. So this time I believe it's the same case, and it's a lesson to be learned because they always make it. They have a very high success percentage when it comes to making it through to the semis, whether it's a 50 over World Cup or the T20 World Cup. Last probably 7 or 8 years, how often have they made it? And yet people don't consider them to actually make the cut. So that's really surprising to me.
okay, let's get Pramod and Akshay's thoughts about New Zealand. But before we go to the squad again, I want to see those group fixtures with regards to New Zealand because they play their first game on the 8th of June. So they still have some time till we, of course, see them in flesh. And that's the first game against Afghanistan. Everyone's talking about in Guyana. And all these times, remember, are IST. So if you guys are joining us from the UK or US, it's not according to your clock, it's according to the Indian subcontinental time. Akshay, where do you see New Zealand, of course, go for starters in this World Cup? Do you think, as clinical as they've been in previous World Cups, they'll make it out of the group and then they'll, of course, face the inevitable death in the semi-finals or finals, or not even there?
I mean, semis, finals, like it'll be very hard to predict that because this time around we have Super 8s. For now, we can only talk about whether they can make it through to the Super 8s or not. Uske baad to it becomes a bit tricky. In terms of the squad and how New Zealand is looked at, I do agree with Jeet. They tend to sort of go a bit under the radar, and we've seen that time and time again. In fact, I myself wasn't rating them too highly last World Cup, but come the World Cup, they sort of, turn a new leaf. They just come out there and they sort of bring out their best when it comes to these ICC tournaments. Yet to clinch a trophy, so hopefully that's also not too far away. In terms of the squad, probably New Zealand aren't the worst side out there in terms of the test playing nations at least, but I still feel Afghanistan might sort of find it easier to play them than the other way around. But yeah, the West Indies New Zealand encounter that could potentially be sort of the decider in terms of who goes through. I'll be very excited to see that game because New Zealand's bowling that way is very well rounded. They've got a left arm pacer, they've got a couple of right arm pacers, they've got good new ball value in Trent Boult and Tim Southee. Then when it comes to their spin attack, they've got Mitchell Santner, they've got Ish Sodhi, and also if needed, there's Glenn Phillips, Michael Bracewell. So a right arm off spinner, left arm off spinner, a leggy. So that way they've got it all bases covered. Even if you look at their batting on paper, solid top order. Middle order, you've got someone like after Kane Williamson, there's someone like Daryl Mitchell coming in who has those gears in him, and then you've got the likes of I was about to say Maxwell, not Maxwell, Phillips, Glenn Phillips, and even Michael Bracewell, Jimmy Neesham, all those names coming in who can attack from the get-go. We've seen that before. So that way, very well-rounded shot. I do agree with that. But like someone mentioned in the comments, one thing that I'd be really looking forward to is Kane Williamson hasn't played a lot. Devin Conway is coming off an injury. Glenn Phillips hasn't played a lot in recent time. Now, all of a sudden, they would be expected to come good in the World Cup. So I'm just interested to see how do they adjust to these conditions and whether it sort of suits them or not, because Tim Southee, the T20 bowler, does not sort of inspire a lot of confidence in me. Sure, there's still that new ball value, but uske baad kya? How will they sort of look at it? How do they importantly construct their overs? I'm genuinely looking forward to seeing a bit of their tactics. Completely agree with Jeet on how New Zealand are one of those teams who might not have the best of talents or best of resources, but they know how to maximize the value out of each of them. And that is just as important. There's sort of, if I have to draw a comparison, a trophy like CSK, so to say. CSK, just like, how they've not really had the best of talents, the best of names, but they knew how to get the best out of their players, maximizing their players by using them in the right positions at the right times. That's when New Zealand have ticked those boxes very, very, very much in the recent times and before. So it'll be very interesting, to be honest. I'm also interested in seeing the kind of pace attack they go for. There is Lockie Ferguson, there's Trent Boult, there's Tim Southee, and there's one more name that I'm missing. But yes, Matt Henry. Thank you so much. I'm interested to see. I'll be very interested if they sort of bring in Jimmy Neesham for a couple of overs as well in terms of how they sort of look at him. I haven't seen him off late here. Haven't caught a lot of New Zealand T20s, and because of the conditions, it'll be very, very, very interesting. हमने देखा है CPL में तो वो डालते भी, and he has a lot of experience at the CPL level, so that might come in handy for him. So yeah, lots to look forward to for sure, and you should count them out at your own peril. I'd not be foolish enough to sort of directly say, "Ki boss, no, New Zealand's not making it." Hata do. They definitely have a very strong chance of making it.
Akshay has learned from the MI Howler. He's playing it safe now.
Agreed. But yeah, okay, chodo.
I like how Jeet is keeping an observation on that as well. Great stuff, Jeet. Love the tongue-in-cheek over there. And Greg, meanwhile, saying there is no chance New Zealand have top four. And I want to know if Pramod agrees with him or not. And of course, if Pramod can even take Priyanshu's question at the same time, because Kane Williamson is a guy who you might think straight away, you might need someone like them, or him rather, in these kind of conditions. Where are you on Kane and where are you on New Zealand, Pramod?
Yeah, I think this has been discussed already by the other two. I think punching above their weight has always been their sort of cliched line before they enter any competition. But yeah, Kane Williamson, yeah, is going through plenty of injuries. We're probably seeing the last legs of he's in the last legs of his career, and yeah, I think it might West Indies pitches might suit him. In terms of he plays spin quite well. He anchors the innings well, and he has so many other attacking batters around him that he can play his natural game as well. So in that aspect, yeah, I think Kane Williamson will be a huge asset. But I think I noticed one batsman that you guys are not talking about is Mark Chapman. I think, yeah, I mean, I don't know if he's going to make the 11, which is, I think, a little unlikely. But then I think New Zealand have sort of given him a long rope, probably in the last 2 years. I think he had a fantastic 2023, if I'm not wrong. He's done well, reasonably well this year as well. So I mean, if that's more, I mean, he just adds a little more depth to their squad as well. Left arm batter, mid order batter, who can, I think, bowl a bit of off spin as well. So yeah, he's a massive asset, and it'll be foolish if New Zealand don't actually give him a chance in this tournament. He thoroughly deserves it.
Can I ask you guys something with regards to New Zealand's playing 11 on that first game, in that first game against Afghanistan? What will it look like? We'll show the squad, and then Jeet, you can help us out here, and the boys can chip in. Will there be any surprises? Is it straightforward, Jeet?
I think it's rather straightforward. Just as the squad, like I expected, the playing 11 should be as follows. They will probably open with Devon Conway and Finn Allen. Number 3 will be Kane Williamson. Number 4 will be Daryl Mitchell. Number 5 will be Glenn Phillips. Number 6 will be Michael Bracewell. 7 will be Jimmy Neesham. 8 will be Mitch Santner. And the pace trio will be Lockie Ferguson, Tim Southee, and Trent Bolt. So we should probably not see someone like Mark Chapman starting, or Matt Henry starting, or even Rachin Ravindra starting, unless if Devon Conway is still not fit enough. I believe these blokes are just going to act as a backup and brought into the 11 only if need be. So I think it's rather straightforward. It's not as complicated as some of the other teams that we will be discussing in a couple of days' time.
All right, and Akshay, just to wind up in New Zealand then, because there's West Indies to talk about. Who is that one player that could really take it away for New Zealand and take them to the dying embers of the tournament? Is it Glenn Phillips? Is it someone else? Who is your pick?
I'm very tempted to sort of go with Glenn Phillips, given how much we've harped about him in the IPL. But I'll actually go to Mitchell Santner. He's definitely going to be very key for them with the ball for sure, and also with the bat, to be honest, because this top order could very easily struggle against some competent spin attacks, and that's where you could potentially see him coming up with some crucial cameos as well. So Mitchell Santner is definitely a name I'd be looking forward to this time around this World Cup with the ball, and a solid World Cup could potentially help him add a couple of zeros, if not more, come the auction later in December. So I'm not saying that he's going to have an eye on the auction as well, but he'll definitely want to do well for his side for sure.
Okay, interesting. By the way, Adyayan Singhal saying promote by the thing with Chapman is he really performs against Pakistan. Look, Mark Chapman will perform. Don't you worry about that. But Singhal has another one saying, guys, don't you think New Zealand has a very similar batting template to India in terms of approach and style, which they play with? Also feel for Mill not making the squad, obviously due to his injury record. Do you agree with that first bit? The fact that they kind of go about the old schoolish way, get to your 180s, 190s, and then, of course, put pressure with the ball. Jeet's nodding politely. Where do the others stand? Akshay?
It's a bit hard. I can sort of see where Adyan is coming from. They do have a couple of anchor type batters, and if you add sort of someone like a Daryl Mitchell, sure, they do seem like one of those more stable top orders. But then they also have the likes of Finn Allen, Glenn Phillips, people who can take the game away from you very quickly. India mein pata nahi yaar, Sky hai, like there are names, I'm not going to deny that, but I don't know, for some reason might be a bit of bias there, but I would probably have I would say they are sort of constructed a lot more. They are a lot more in tune with the current batting needs of the T20 format than say India, is how I would probably put it.
Okay, interesting. Guys, let me, of course, talk about the West Indies next, but there are some good questions coming through. We'll take some of the best to wrap up the Group C chat, and of course, our predictions at the end of the show. So do not miss that. Quickly like this video before the rain comes down heavily in this part of the world that I'm recording from. Right, West Indies is the time to, of course, talk about them, because two-time winners, and they were being quite lucky in terms of having two opportunities to host the World Cup. But it's a great place to play cricket, watch cricket, and all of that in the Caribbean. So let's talk about the West Indies and what they've, of course, done in the World Cup. That's what they've done twice, like I said, winning it, 2012, 2016. And Darren Sammy, I think, just a brilliant captain at that point in time, getting the best out of all those characters over there. Win percentage just over 50, but still, on their day, they can absolutely blow away any other team, and we've seen that before. Gale, Bravo, Pollard, Russell, Narayan, they've just had a factory of T20 products, and that's no prizes for guessing. Right, where do they, of course, play their first game, lads? They play on Sunday. They play against PNG in Guyana, and I'm pretty sure Shiv Chandrapal, Tej Narayan Chandrapal and family will be there watching the Trinidadians and the West Indians play. Let's not start with our in-house ride emirate, which is Jeet. Let's in fact go to, of course, Pramod Anand about the West Indies first. Just first take, I know they're hosting it. Is it more pressure to, of course, perform in front of your home crowd?
You guys might disagree, but I have West Indies pipped as one of the favorites to win this time. Just as you said, just look at their batting. They have look at that those four Puran.
But is
Powell,
that sentimental?
Not at all sentimental. I think I feel that their middle order, as I said, Puran, Hetmeyer, Russell. I'm missing somebody. Somebody.
Puran,
So
Russell, Hetmeyer, Roman Powell. These will
Roman Powell, of course. Sorry, I forgot Roman Powell himself. So I think I just look at that batting order, and you have Brandon King, who's at the top as well, with I think Johnson Charles probably opening with him. So I think you look at this top 5 or top 6. I don't see any bowling attack, strong enough to like stop all of them in one go. And a couple of them click, and they're going to get West Indies over the line, I feel. But I think bowling-wise, I think a bit on the weaker side. Of course, missing Jason Holder, that's definitely a big blow. But of course, Alzari Joseph has not had the best of, didn't have the best of times recently. And then you have someone as experienced as Shamar Joseph as well, who I think got picked in the West Indian squad before and then picked up his first T20 wicket. So so I think he's of course he's fast, he's brutal. Probably be the X factor if he gets a game or so. But then I look at someone like Akil Hossain and Moti, who are both left arm spinners. We've seen left arm spinners come into play in the Caribbean so much. So I think they could be once again key over there. But yeah, I'm really excited to see how their middle order goes. Those 4 players, 3, 4, 5, 6, how they go about it. And yeah, it's going to be difficult to sort of contain them in the tournament.
Yeah, you mentioned that, and I straight away think Nicholas Puran has to have an amazing run in the tournament for West Indies to go deep and probably win the competition. You can't put it past them because they know, of course, their own conditions because it's their own backyard, Jeet. And you look at this West Indies side on paper, and again, they have some amazing names over there, and I'd love to get Akshay's thoughts about it in due course. But you first, Jeet, what do you think about them? Because yes, they beat South Africa, relatively second string South Africa side, dare I say, recently 3-0. But do they look like champions on paper? What are they missing in terms of cricketing idiosyncrasies? Let it put it that way.
I mean, they've got King Charles opening. What else do you need? So, but sadly, what's absolutely blasphemous is the exclusion of Kyle Mears. That is just completely beyond me. How that guy is not being rated so highly when he's been so good in the top order. He was phenomenal in the series against South Africa as well, batting at number 3. So what's basically going to happen is, of course, Brandon King and Johnson Charles are going to open, but the number 3 slot is empty, which means that they will probably have to play Shea Hope. Now, I was of the opinion that either Shea Hope plays or Austin Chase plays. You can't have both in the 11. But without Mayers, it is probably going to be both these guys batting. But I believe that's fine. I mean, Shea Hope, at the end of the day, had a very good CPL season. Austin Chase also has been pretty good for St. Lucia Kings a few years ago. And you can see why his addition makes sense. A very underrated bowler. He bowled with the new ball against South Africa and got the job done. And with the bat, he's technically fairly good, but has a very good defensive technique, which is not ideal for the T20s. But he's coming up the ranks really well. He's done really well back home, so it's fair to back him as well. But it's a comeback of Nicholas Pooran, Shimron Hetmeyer, Roman Paul in that middle order. That makes for a really good middle order. So besides South Africa, if I have to look at a team that has got an outstanding middle order, arguably even the best, I'll have to say it's the West Indies. It's their own backyard. I know they know the conditions really well, but at the end of the day, to have this kind of a firepower is absolutely outstanding. Oh, I forgot Andre Russell as well. So that's an outstanding 4-7 to have. That's just phenomenal. The only issue that they could potentially face is their bowling department. Yes, they've got Akil Hossain, who's been outstanding in the new ball as well, and Kudukesh Moti, who did really well in the recent series as well. So I believe only one of the two is going to make the cut eventually, but it's still a very good spin attack to have at your disposal. But the pace attack is where they might, perhaps face a little bit of challenge. It's great to see the addition of Obed McCoy, which has come quite belatedly, but it's a great addition to have. We always talk about Mustafizur and his ability on the tracks that are kind of slow and his cutters coming into the game. That the same thing applies to Obed McCoy as well. So he's also going to be really vital in these particular conditions. But besides that, it's a slightly, favored pace attack. Alzari Joseph has been out of form for a while. Romario Shefford is somebody whom you would not look as a frontline pacer. There is Shamar Joseph, who's very inexperienced as well at this level. So that's where they might feel a bit of challenge. But in terms of firepower, they've got a handful of it with the bat. So I think it's going to be the batters that could actually get the job done, unlike the few other teams that will be relying on the bowlers.
And all of this with Sunil Narayan watching on the couch, man. He should really come out of retirement. He can end in high. He can contribute to the team's success. He'll be such a massive sort of catalyst if he does, of course, magically, dreamily come back in. But that's not going to happen. More comments to take in the West Indies before I get more thoughts from the boys about the hosts, because I'm fascinated to see how they go about their business. In the last couple of years, if you actually recollect all the T20 series they've been playing against South Africa, Australia, England, they got the results in those series, and they were not, proper B-string teams or second-string sides or whatever you want to say about those touring sides. And it gives you a lot of confidence heading into the tournament as a West Indies fan. But again, I know King Charles and all of that as openers, but Nicholas Pooran is the key for me. He has to come to the fore. West Indies are the most exciting team, saying sports fan. Look forward to them. I missed them last year in the World Cup. Remember, they didn't play the ODI World Cup, so that's, of course, that. West Indies are dark horses this tournament, saying Mohammad Irfan, and looking forward to Gurukesh Moti, who we did see, of course, in that series against India as well. Fan cams in the West Indies and USA as well, Abnish? No, man, not at all, not this time around. And really looking forward to see King plays, Brandon King plays, has been in some real good form for some time now, and has taken that batting to the next level when it comes to his striking ability. All of them has. I was listening to some podcasts with Ian Bishop on it, and he said they've all worked in their power game. We saw a little glimpse of what Shea Hope could do in the IPL. I think he started off his innings against one of the teams really slowly, but then he had like a fire-packed 41. Rahul Singh joins the chat saying, so West Indies for South Africa. Good luck to the sides facing Akil, Moti, Chase, and those West Indies tracks. Like I said, they know their tracks and their pitches at the back of their hand. Indeed, Moti troubled India. We, of course, just observed that. I think if India play well, they'll win it. Thoughts we'll speak about India in the Group A preview, which comes day after. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about Group B, which features Australia and England and Scotland for all those watching from Glasgow, if they do, of course, tune into cricket.com. But nonetheless, lots of you guys watching this one as well. And please like this video really quickly. I know we kind of keep telling you that, but it just is important to us. I think the West Indies can do good if they play well, might struggle if they don't play good. Okay, absolutely. You can say that about any fucking team, right? Duke, but appreciate your comment nonetheless. Akshay, Pyro show that I need to go to right now, but pyrotechniques is what the West Indies will have to, of course, showcase in their own backyard. Can they, of course, get the ball rolling because they play one of the early games in this World Cup and make a statement? I know they're playing PNG. Can they go out there, score 240, 250 and be like, hey, you're in our backyard. Let's, of course, throw the gauntlet to the other teams.
Can they? Sure, they can, but I don't know how much of a message will that send out either which ways. It's all about consistently performing that, rather than sort of coming up with those high variance performances, which we've come to see of them any which ways in the earlier editions as well. So whenever West Indies is around, fireworks aren't too far away. Even with this side, the likes of Pooran, Powell and Russell, and I don't even think Hetmeyer is going to be starting for them in the 11. Given that, just goes on to show the kind of talent they possess. So the way I look at it, it's going to be King and Charles, of course. And number 3, like Jeet mentioned, it is going to be tricky. Shai Hope or Roshan Chase, both of them have, both of them have thrown their hat in that ring, and both of them have a fair shout. I would personally go to Roshan Chase. Also because of the value he adds with the ball. He's actually improved his batting a fair bit in the CPL in the last couple of CPL editions as well. So he'll definitely be a value add there. Pooran at 4, Powell at 5, Russell at 6, and Shepherd at 7. That sort of rounds out their batting order, their top 7. Then Akil at number 8, not a bad option to have. Alzari Joseph can handle himself at number 9. 10 and 11 is where Obid McCoy and Gudakesh Moti come in to sort of, complete their 11. All in all, once again, a well-rounded sort of 11, a well-rounded lineup on paper. If you look at their batting, they've got solid, stable batters in Brandon King and Johnson Charles. Brandon King has been their most dependable batter, has been their highest run getter in the last 15 months. Johnson Charles sort of has changed his game, has sort of brought that intent into his sort of gameplay. In fact, if you look at numbers, Johnson Charles before 2022 in T20 eyes had a strike rate of about 121. Since Jan 2023, that strike rate has gone up by nearly 50% to 180. It just goes on to show how he's sort of improved his batting in terms of upping the ante very quickly. So he's definitely going to be right up there. In Shai Hope or Roshan Chase at number 3, they've got a dependable batter, an anchor type batter who can sort of ensure boss ek end se wicket to nahi jayega. So batters from the other end can play with that much more freedom. So there's Pooran, Powell and Russell. That's as good as it gets, man. You've got 2 right-handers, 1 left-hander. All 3 of them can demolish pace. Then you've got arguably one of the best hitters of spin in the world right now in Nicholas Pooran. So that's as good as it gets. So definitely a very, very, very solid top 5 to have. Top 6 to have. And then you've got Romario Shepherd. We did see some of his pyrotechniques in that Delhi-Mumbai encounter, during the IPL. So he definitely is no mug with the bat. So all in all, once again, batting looks sorted. With the ball, I'm expecting Obid McCoy to sort of start off for them. A very, very, very good addition. They sort of lucked out that Jason Holder had to back out because Holder was their first choice in the squad. Obid McCoy should make his way into the 11 straight away. I don't see Shamar Joseph coming in. Adds value with the new ball. Also gives them that left-arm pace option. There's a bit of that slinginess to his action. And like Jeet mentioned, those cutters, he has those variations that could really come in handy during the World Cup. So him and Akil Hussain, the new ball bowler, someone I've really enjoyed watching. In the same mold as Imad Wasim, where he has those one-fingered seamers that can sort of cut back in sharply. So it'll be very interesting to see how he fares because of late he's also not been in the greatest of form. Then there's Gudakesh Moti, who's coming off a very, very, very good last 12 months. Even in the West Indies South Africa series, he was their highest wicket taker. He was the series highest wicket taker, had the second best economy there. So he's been doing solidly well for them. Alzari Joseph, Romario Shepherd, and then add the likes of Andre Russell there and Roshan Chase. You've got decent enough face coverage. Andre Russell would most likely bowl or operate at the death because middle overs, you've got Alzari, you've got Romario, you've also got Gudakesh Moti to come in. And there's Romario Shepherd to help them out at the death as well. So all in all, once again, on paper, you would say, sure, boss, matlab jo bhi boxes stick karne hote when it comes to constructing a decent enough 11, they've got all of that covered. Now it's all about can they consistently sort of fulfill their role to the best of their abilities. That's where they've struggled. On their best days, they sort of come good, but it is about sort of ensuring that they consistently perform. It's not about the high variance games जहाँ पे एक दिन 250 बना दिया दूसरे दिन 100 पे all out हो गए. Even in the sort of West Indies South Africa series, the way they played यार मतलब समझ नहीं आ पहले 2 games, of course they won the series, so make no mistake. The way they played their first 2 games and the way they played their last, it makes you wonder which West Indies is going to turn up because that's going to be even more crucial. If the best version of West Indies turns up against PNG and Uganda, no one's going to bat an eyelid. It's about ensuring that they turn up at the right moments, against the likes of New Zealand, against the likes of Afghanistan. So all in all, yeah, good 11, but I'm not sure sort of how big to bet on them, because that high variance is definitely going to go against them.
Yeah, good points made. But I disagree with that one point, the fact that you said Ovid McCoy might get the nod. I generally feel Jamal Joseph in front of his own crowd could probably have a baptism by fire with the T20 international scheme of things in the World Cup. It could really just give the youngster the push. But agreed. I mean, McCoy as well brings his own skill set. Lots of people saying different things about the West Indies. It makes you think about good memories that they've had in this World Cup. Like I said, twice winners. Once that Marlon Samuels mad knock against Sri Lanka and Colombo. And then, of course, what they did in 2016. Ben Stokes fans would remember that not too fondly, should I say. Raul Duke was being cheeky with some other random questions, but we'll take this one. Say, Ozaj Joseph gets into the playing 11, right? He was one of the highest paid bowlers in the IPL. The price tag doesn't matter. Of course, a different
He's
format.
their vice captain,
But
just to be clear. So he's definitely part of the 11.
exactly. And I think, again, someone like him with the home crowd edging him on, he'll probably get the best out of himself as well. The batting team will have to score 20-25 above par. That's just the thumb rule, isn't it? And Shashank Timsina saying, hello, Pramod. So Pramod having a lot of fans as well. And why wouldn't it be? Because, of course, we spoke about Uganda. We did speak about PNG, not to forget Afghanistan, New Zealand. And we wrapped up with the West Indies. Guys, predictions then, Group C, because I went bold yesterday saying South Africa and Nepal. I would love to see it. Is anyone making anything far-fetched, wishful, outrageous, desirable? Any of those kind of predictions in Group C, guys? Pramod, tell me yours first.
As far as much as I would love to see PNG or Uganda progress, I'm going to say West Indies and New Zealand to go through.
Okay, playing safe. What about you, Akshay?
Afghanistan is a team, funnily enough, I think will make it through. I'm just confused between West Indies and New Zealand, because I don't know. Like I said, West Indies, agar Puran tic gaya bhai, he'll single-handedly end the game before you can even sort of think. So it's going to be very tricky. But yeah, New Zealand in the World Cup is a different beast. Okay, I'll go with New Zealand and Afghanistan.
Okay, no West Indies.
क्या करे भाई अभी again make no mistake West Indies definitely are sort of going to pack a solid punch. I just don't know will they do it against these teams. Pata chala against PNG and Uganda they win by like 200 runs and they end up losing to these sides, which is very much in the realm of possibility. I'm not sort of thinking big here. This is very much possible. We've seen this before as well. So yeah, I'll stick to that. New Zealand and Afghanistan.
Jeet, where are you going? Because even if you take a look at the fixtures like we showed everyone earlier, it could go down to that last game on the 18th of June, West Indies versus Afghanistan.
That last game is the very game that I believe will be a decider. So I've successfully managed to change Akshay's views and tilt towards Afghanistan and New Zealand being the two likely teams to actually make it through. But yeah, I believe New Zealand have strong chances because they plan well, and Afghanistan have the resources to trouble West Indies middle order that struggles against spin. So that matchup at the very end of the group is going to be the decider. But if I have to take two names, it will be New Zealand and Afghanistan.
Okay, New Zealand, Afghanistan, West Indies, Afghanistan, and of course, I will go with West Indies 100% because I'd love to see a host do well in any World Cup in any sport. So West Indies for me. And because Afghanistan was just riding the wave of the ODI World Cup, I think they'll take that momentum into this, albeit a different format. And like you boys were harping upon the spin quintet, I think Afghanistan could really give New Zealand a run for their money, and it could not be the best of scripts for Kane Williamson, so on and so forth. Remember, lots of you guys joining us right now. Please give us some love if you guys are joining us from X, Facebook, Reddit, YouTube, you name it. We are there, so follow us, and we're going stronger like no one else has in this time pre-leading to the World Cup. Surprised for Akshay's views on the West Indies. Look really, really strong in terms of batting.
They are.
Agree to
They are.
disagree.
Make no mistake. Agree with you there, Nikhil. And again, bhai, matlab, these are just what we think will happen. Reality to alag hi hoga, bhai. Apne haath mein thodi. This is just us trying to sort of, in our head think what can happen. But agree with you, they definitely have a very good batting lineup. And like Jeet mentioned, arguably the best middle order in this edition of the World Cup. So make no mistake. But that alone can't sort of, that alone is not good enough. Simply put, so yeah.
Okay. Introspect saying, bro, West Indies look hungry this time for missing out on the last couple of ICC tournaments. I hope that is something that they're thinking about. And of course,
Fingers
Carl
crossed.
Hooper, Darren Sammy, all of them can just bring the best out of this team. Remember, West Indies are in action tomorrow or later tonight. They're taking Australia on in that World Cup. What do you call it? Just a pre-friendly, a warm-up game, so to speak. In India, of course, take on Bangladesh. There's Ireland, Sri Lanka, plenty of other games. I think Nepal, US is, I think, the rain the last time I checked. And there's, I think, Scotland, Uganda as well. So plenty of cricket. Go check it however you guys want to watch it. And good to see all you blokes giving us some love on this Thursday. More to come, like I keep saying, Friday and Saturday, the remaining previews of Group B and then Group A. We're doing Group A just on the day of the game with USA, Canada. And of course, something to think about, that India-Ireland game on the 5th of June. Thank you for your time, everyone, not just in the comments, but of course, these three lovely gentlemen, Jeet, Pramod, and Akshay, for making it 2 out of 2 on the trot midweek. But look, we're here and we're loving it because the World Cup is just in touching distance. It's a matter of days away, and the coverage will be excellent as ever. I'm Abni Shaikh signing off. And like I said, pyrotechniques in this group, pyro show for me to attend. So what are we waiting for? Let's end the fucking show. Where is that sting, Shaunak? It is here. Cheers, lads.
Cheers, guys.